All right, how's it going? It's another episode of Today in Art. Today is February 2nd, 2020. The what I want to cover is it's an article by ArtNet by Ben Davis. It says how Fox News weaponizes art. If you're watching on YouTube, then there's a picture of painter John Gnaton shows off his portrait of President Reagan and a tape in a Sean Hannity's Fox News. And basically, to sum it up really quick, this individual seems to be mad that there's people that would voluntarily, willingly paint patriotic art. Like, how can they do this? How can a so-called, they don't even, like, how can a so-called artist not be liberal? How can they be conservative? Don't they know all artists are liberal? All of them. And if you do conservative Republican art, it's propaganda. I'll actually link a video up here. It's kind of funny because I just wanted to see what was happening. I did a painting of Trump and posted it into a local like art group on Facebook, and there's like a ton. There's some people that are neutral, and there's a slight few that liked it, but there's like a lot of TDS going on. Like, it's like, for that, it was like, they can't comprehend how, like, if you're going to depict Trump, how would you, like, I depicted it in a neutral sense, and because it's neutral, and not like, it's not like it wasn't like an immediately hate-filled depiction of him, so they were confused, like, why somebody would paint him neutral or even in a positive light. So we'll get into this. It's showing a picture of Stephen Penley. If you go to his website here, he kind of does these like very loose, very colorful images. A lot of it's kind of like Ronald Reagan. There's a $100 bill. There's like Coca-Cola and stuff. So, have you ever heard of Stephen Penley? I haven't. But then I guess the fact that I don't know this colorfully dappled paintings of U.S. presidents and American flags just means that I don't watch much Fox News. And they go into this whole thing, like, they're like beating on Fox News, being like, oh, it's conservative, it's Republican. Like, yeah, but it's like, as far as I can tell, it's like Fox News is like the one news organization there is for like conservatives, Republicans, or the right. And then you got like CNN. On the left, you got like CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, Huffington Post, Vox. You have like all these ones that are like left, but there's like one on the right. So it's like you got to attack it. You got to attack the conservatives and all this stuff. Penley's art is more than just a regular feature and symbol of all that is patriotic on Fox. You have seen his patriotic paintings all over Fox and Friends and actually Fox News Channel everywhere you go. And we see your pictures hanging up in the halls. The show's co-host Ashley Einhart enthused to an audience a few years ago during an appearance by the world-famous painter on the show. I haven't heard of him before, but because you haven't heard of him or you don't like it doesn't mean he's not... Because he has a world-famous painter in, like, quotations. Like, he's doing it to, like, mock the individual. It's all over my radio studio now. We took them all. Another one of the friends, Brian Kilmade, added, it's brainwashing. That level of media exposure surely makes Penley one of the country's most high-profile painters, whether you've heard of him or not. In a funny way, the right-wing media sphere has a lot more use for artists than its liberal cable media rivals. Most of media is left. Is very... I mean, if you look at most media, it's left. Most of Hollywood is left. A huge amount of like artists are left, and like there's a few that maybe say they come out as conservative, and like there's like these few ones that are like, for them it's like they're popping their heads up and not agreeing with us, so we got to take them out. This whole issue's been like, this whole issue's kind of pissing me off. Where you're like, if you're not super liberal, if you're not against the man, even though if you're not like anti-establishment, but they don't realize like they themselves are the establishment. They are the man. Like conservative views are like now counterculture. I heard that a few years ago, and I was like, oh, okay. But it's counterculture now to be conservative. For somebody not to have, I mean, I have tattoos, but for somebody not to have tattoos is almost kind of, it's kind of surprising in this day and age. Welter wades through a lot of Fox News, so you don't have to define the Fox News theory of art, and it's pretty much what you think it is. Only 3 kinds of art exist for Fox News: patriotic, stupid, and obscene. Well, Fox News is a conservative news outlet. It is a business, so I don't really see what a certain business, like I don't see what their view on art why it would matter. I mean, yeah, they have their shows. They're trying to make a profit. They're pushing their own little agendas. So, anyway you slice it, it's mainly instrumental view. It's a mainly instrumental view of art. A given artwork gets the spotlight either because it is useful as propaganda for the Fox News worldview. I mean, I could say probably the same thing for anything on the left. I don't know. Say if Obama had like a hope poster made by Shepard Fairey, which was done in a very flat, stylistic Soviet propaganda style. But that's like text. The hope poster, the way it's designed is like textbook, like Soviet propaganda posters. How it's supposed to use like bold colors and flat images to like provoke like emotion. While Penley has colorful ones, McNaughton is almost kind of his are very, very traditional. Like I wouldn't say they're not photorealistic, but they're very, it's like realism. Oh, main thing too is like they are also, like I said, I don't really watch Fox News or CNN or any of them really. I don't really watch any cable TV. But they're trying to, I don't know if Fox News is like, obviously they're right. They're like conservative Republican, but I don't know if the shows on them are necessarily push like Christian values or not. Because like I said, I don't watch it. But it's almost like you get this underlying current here that like, that anything Christian, especially in art, is like a terrible thing now. And you're almost like attacking Christian values, but liberal art, which is like opposed to that, is great. But then again, I don't really hear them. It's like Christian, I'm not Christian, but like almost like Christian stuff, because they bring up like people getting mad at like Piss Christ, which is like a little miniature figurine that was like submerged in urine. But they don't bring up like Charlie Hebdo, because he drew a cartoon like Muhammad. Then he was ended up getting killed, because heaven forbid you draw like you draw Muhammad. Like they pick and choose what like religion they want to attack, essentially. It's saying it's propaganda for Fox News because it serves as an illustration of how dumb and empty-headed liberal elites are, or because it outrages conservative sensibilities, and so it can be used to rally the troops for the culture war. The favored patriotic aesthetic tends to channel Norman Rockwell by Andy Warhol, or late pop recycling of comfortingly cliched American symbols like Penley. The late Thomas Kincaid also took direct inspiration from Warhol's factory and described himself as Warhol's apparent. The best you could say of his work is that it probably that it's probably more aware of how it operates than the art-loving public that doesn't watch Fox News gives it credit for. So they're like, they're mad at Kincaid too, because he's known for like these kind of romanticized, fantasized kind of cottages in the hillside, and they're mad at him because he was able to like kind of commercialize his art in a very very successful way, because you can still buy like calendars and postcards and stuff of his, which the right is about. This may be another issue too, is like it doesn't say in there, but almost like you should be, they have this idea that maybe you should be a starving artist, and if you capitalize on it using capitalism, that somehow that subjugates it. But also I believe I can't remember if it's in this one or not, but they mentioned like Jeff Koons, he's like wildly successful. Or maybe they compared to Jeff Koons as he's a known one compared to this Steve Penley, but he's like wildly rich. Damien Hirst as well. So a lot of these like world-renowned successful artists are like, if you want to do art as your business career long-wise, unless maybe you're teaching college or your art, and you need something to subsidize your housing and food and electric, all that stuff, and if you become successful, that's somehow not good. Conservative aesthetics are stereotypically all about taking a stand against decadent experimental art and for real traditional art. I made a version of this point before. He talks about Jordan Peterson. But by putting this art in the context of Fox News, Wilson makes the point even more forcefully. It shows just how classically postmodern this conservative art is. If by that you mean art reduced to hollowed out signifiers, mutable performance, and stripped of any sense of reality outside of media. It goes into, it seems like this talking point they have is like they don't actually believe that anybody can be actually truly patriotic and truly love your country for what it is, that if you're doing this, you're like shilling yourself out. Like they lack this capability of being able to understand. There was a study done, I don't have it pulled up, but there was a study done where they have like liberals and conservatives, and because this kind of goes into this whole echo bubble thing too, especially Twitter is a big issue with it. Like they show people like on the left, like not wanting to, visit the other side of the aisle and look at it from their view, that they like, if you don't agree with them, like the other side they're doing it because they're evil. While conservatives, like they can understand their point and they can see where like the liberal point is coming from, but they disagree with it. So it's almost like this lack of understanding coming from that. The Fox News view of culture may slam contemporary art as deliberately valuing offense over enlightenment, spectacle over skill, ugliness over beauty. But beneath a very thin Rockwellian veneer, all of this is equally true of the through the looking glass instability of Fox News regard. You can't understand superstar Fox News artist John McNaughton's One Nation Under Socialism, a painting of Obama burning the Constitution outside the value it puts on offense, aka trolling the libs. And I think it said, where's this at? I got it pulled up here. And like I said, it's just Obama, a picture of Obama like burning the Constitution, because they was having issues of him doing, but they, like it said, they didn't like that it was against their guy, so they didn't like it. And you can't understand Joe Everson, whose shtick is a live painting the Statue of Liberty while singing the national anthem outside the appeal of spectacle. Once again, it's like going back into, like he's just an evil capitalist. He's not really doing this for money. All those conservatives, they're dumb. They're falling for it. And like they can't believe that painting, because there's a video here too if you want to look it up. It's like Joe Everson, Fox and Friends. He does like this very loose, large painting of the Statue of Liberty like upside down, and he like flips it at the end, all while he's singing, was it the national anthem? Which doing either one of those by yourself is something talented, and if you're doing both at the same time, that's even more credible. I don't care if he was singing like, if somebody was singing like the Russian national anthem and they're doing a painting of Obama in like Soviet communist gear. You may not like it, but you gotta like respect the skill and the talent of that. But that's another thing too. With this is kind of getting a little off subject, but like the whole thing with Obama, he was like an elegant speaker with like terrible policies, but because he spoke eloquently, like people kind of like were naive and gullible and went with it. And now with Trump, like he's like a brash, brute, doesn't sugarcoat speaker, but he has great policies. And like there's like certain people that can't get past someone not being an eloquent speaker and speaking in a harsh way or a very straightforward way. Patriot artist, nationally acclaimed flag muralist, and frequent Fox visitor Scott LeBeo's 20-foot-tall image of muscle-bound Donald Trump is about as far from the profundities of real traditional art as Andreas Sarayo's Piss Christ. And there's an artist that like had a big image of, if you're watching, it's like a big image of like Trump all like muscled up in like 2020 and below. Then they were comparing that to the Piss Christ. They're saying like, how can you have one without the other? So, what's it all mean? Probably that you should take Fox News art a hair more seriously than it is normally taken. Not in the sense of plumbing it for deep meaning. Its meaning seems mainly to appeal to Fox News audiences. But as simplistic and easily mocked as it is, it's much more savvy and finely calibrated to be effective than it gets credit for. So once again, he's going back to saying that like I think whether he really believes this or he just wrote it in this way, it's at least written that like he lacks the comprehension to understand why somebody would actually make, like why they would voluntarily make art that is essentially patriotic. Because I would assume the way this is written that he himself is not. But when he's talking about like propaganda stuff, even though it wasn't with Fox, like the Shepard Fairey stuff never came up. And like I said, that's kind of, I mean, that's like textbook, like propaganda style art, flat posters. It could be mass produced, easily distributed. So that's just, I don't know. Like I'm kind of getting, yeah, normally when you think of artists, you would think of kind of like liberal, hippie, fight the man, drug induce, yada, yada, yada. And heaven forbid, like someone is like, they're technically able to paint and they create paintings and artwork and stuff, and they just happen to be conservative or capitalistic. For some reason, when you like throw that in the mix, like people can't either comprehend it or they think they're evil and they're creating propaganda. But like I said, this one may have went a little bit longer. It's late, and I was trying to figure out how to make this whole piece concise today because it just goes off on all these different tangents. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. This has been Today in Art, February 2nd, 2020. If you're watching on YouTube, you give me a like. If you really liked it, you can subscribe. I'm around like 215 subscribers, trying to get to the 1,000 mark. So if you subscribe, that'd be great. If you didn't like me, you didn't like the article, you didn't like Ben, you can put in the comments why. And if you didn't like the video altogether, you can just thumb it down or whatever. But all right, this has been Today in Art. I will catch you later. I'm doing about one of these a week, I think. So, all right. Peace.